gotta tell somebody.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
You need this. Listen to this.
Memorable and exciting.
Well, then be less boring.
I'm going to tell everyone. Wait here.
Quite a remarkable, Big Daddy.
Remarkable?
Welcome to Remarkable, a podcast for B2B marketers that deconstructs the most iconic moments in film, television, pop culture, and advertising for a single purpose: to give you, the B2B marketer, the same storytelling techniques that the pros use. In each episode, you will learn techniques from Hollywood, Pixar, Marvel, and beyond, from Spielberg's hands to yours, bringing remarkable content ideas to you every single week. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. This is Remarkable. This week, we're talking about B2B marketing lessons from the book The Wager by David Grann, with the help of our special guest, Director of Content Marketing at Authentic8.
The ships were desperate to stay together because they knew if they were separated, there'd be no one to rescue them. And in the mist and the storm and the giant hollow seas, all the ships eventually scattered, and the Wager was separated from the all, left alone and to its own destiny.
Shannon, how are you?
I'm doing so well. Thanks for having me on.
For a second, I almost went, Shannon.
Shannon. I've been referred to as Shannon before. You could call me Shannon if you like.
Is that you really have? That's hilarious.
Yes. I forget who. I feel like it was a high school thing. It was yelled down the hallways. Shannon.
I know. I think I was channeling my inner high school. Today, we're going to talk about how you think about marketing and content, and of course, The Wager. So why the heck did you pick The Wager to talk about today?
My God. Why didn't I pick The Wager? No, I did pick The Wager. This is The Wager for all of our on-camera attendees. It's a beautiful book. It's a book by David Grann, same author as Killers of the Flower Moon. So bound to be good.
So hot right now.
So hot right now. I picked this up because at the end of last year, I feel like it was a gloomy, winter read. And The Wager, the subtitle of which is A Tale of Shipwreck, Mutiny, and Murder. What is not to love? It is a thrilling nonfiction that reads like a novel, that reads like a period piece. It's set in the mid-1700s. There are several ships which leave England to go chase down a Spanish galleon and loot its treasure and return it to the war chest of royalty at the time. And I think of 5 that leave, one kind of gets back. And I won't tell you who else gets back because that would be the biggest spoiler. But the Wager is one of the ships, and they get shipwrecked around Cape Horn. And it is just a tale of misery and survival and tenacity. And I just loved it so much. It's so enthralling, and it's really captivated me. And that it is a true story and was more captivating than some of the fiction that I've read, ever. It's just so incredible, and just goes to show what an incredible storyteller David Grann is, and how he can show us history in modern captivating, times that can stand up against House of the Dragon and, whatever's on HBO right now. It's just such a good book, and it's so well told.
And zooming out, tell us a little bit about your work as Director of Content Marketing at Authentic8.
Yes. So in another world, I am Content Marketing Director at Authentic8, which is a cybersecurity company, but they are focused in kind of a niche market of open source intelligence gathering. It is the kind of investigations of the super scary stuff on the internet, either really bad stuff, national security issues, fraud and things like that, as well as cyber threats. So why I chose The Wager in connection to my job is I have tried to shape any content marketing program that I'm part of as a stranger than fiction initiative, because I think the true stories are the most interesting. And so getting people that live it, walk the walk, do it every day to kind of tell their war stories and, their learnings along the way, and be able to share those with our audience under our brand without really having to talk too much about ourselves has just, been a great brand builder and gotten people into our orbit. And then once they know us and like us and love us, then it's really easy to be like, by the way, we have this great product I think you'll like. So that's been my job.
Meredith, what the heck is the wager?
So, you know that I love going into like how these things are made. And this one was so fascinating. Like I love historical stories, especially when they're like dire straits and people are just kind of pushed to their limit.
That is Meredith O'Neill, our amazing producer extraordinaire.
The idea came from when David Grann it was around 2017, and he was just like doing some research. He was clicking through articles on mutinies, which was a sort of topic that he was really fascinated with. So he's looking through these articles and just clicking through and following links. And he said, I always find there's a kind of serendipity to research.
Research can lead you to places you never expect.
So he kind of just tends to stumble upon something. It catches his eye. So he ended up looking through these like digital archives, and he was reading the scanned journal of John Byron, who's actually the grandfather of Lord Byron, the poet. And John Byron had been a midshipman on this boat called the HMS Wager. And he's actually reading this journal and he's getting kind of bored. Like it's sort of archaic English and he's sort of having to decode it as he goes along. And it's right at the point where he's like, I don't know if I'm going to continue. John Byron starts talking about sailors starting to get sick and they're starting to lose teeth and they're starting to lose hair and just like things are getting really gnarly on board. And that ends up being scurvy. So they're starting to suffer from scurvy. And then they're facing typhoons. And so the boat's getting like rocked to like 45-degree angle. It's going super crazy. And then they shipwreck. And of course, he's like, I'm in, I'm hooked. And there's mentions of cannibalism. Like things are getting so dark. And this is where the idea for the wager comes in. So he ends up diving like head deep into research. And he spends about 2 years doing that. And he found all these like firsthand accounts from journals. He found engravings or drawings of what happened on this island, the Wager Island. He read these muster books, which are like registers of who boards a ship along with their rank and date. And he's like, I don't know that this is giving me that much information, but he kept seeing the abbreviation DD, which he found out stood for Dispatched Dead.
Dungeons
and it's like,
and Dragons.
Yeah.
Very
Which
popular
is
at the time.
Honestly, a twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big twist.
Did not see
Also,
that coming.
Since I've already interrupted you, I was going to make a Dire Straits pun because it's like oh,
Mhm.
Dire Straits. It turns out that the phrase Dire Straits does not actually refer to like nautical straits. It's a strait is a word coming from tightened, which I feel like
a straight jacket.
true. Now we're really, this is
Interesting.
how content is made.
I'm a creative writing major. Like this is my world. Let's talk more about word origin.
I was going to
Let's
say, is
do
it
it.
entomology or is that the study of bugs? I never
That's
know.
bugs.
Etymology.
Etymology.
Yeah.
We got to be kidding with that, by the way. One letter changes the whole thing.
Love it.
I'll do it. N.
I'm loving this. Meredith, you're giving such a lovely backstory to the wager.
Oh,
Go
thank
on.
you.
And I am distracting. All right.
I love it. I love the distractions.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
DD. He keeps
Okay.
seeing DD,
Yeah.
and it does not stand for Dungeons and Dragons. It stands for
Dispatched Dead. Very different. And it's like hundreds of these names are labeled DD. And he found out that was like sailors who died on board and had to be dispatched overboard. And that sort of like told him like the human toll, rough. The human toll that like this voyage had. So it's super deadly. People are not doing well. And so he like spends about 2 years doing all of that. And then he's like, I got to go experience like what this part of the world is actually like. So he actually like goes out sailing. It's crazy. He goes out in this like, he describes it as this like little wood-fired boat. And he says he's on Cape Horn. So going around Cape Horn. And he goes into what is translated as the Gulf of Sorrows, or he also says could be the Gulf of Pain.
Now, Gulf de Penas translates as the Gulf of Sorrows, or some prefer to call it, and as I like to call it, the Gulf of Pain.
It's like where all of this water is like moving so swiftly. There's no like land blocking it. So it's just like free flowing. He said there's a wall of water in front of him and a wall of water behind, and he can't see either way. And he's so seasick. And he said, I got a glimpse of what these seas were really like for these people.
How can you fully understand what other people went through in time and space, another period, in another part of the world, unless you gather every piece of intel you can about them and their experience.
And he said in the journals, like the sailors complain, like once they're on Wager Island around Cape Horn, they're like, I'm so cold, I'm starving. And he said it wasn't until he reached Wager Island that he realized like how wet everything always was and how the wind was constantly blowing.
And so I realized, I was like, oh my God, and I was shivering. And I was, oh my God, they all had hypothermia. It hadn't even occurred to me, but I suddenly kind of understood it to the bone, quite literally. It was a very important trip, because I could finally understand these things that I had only read.
And so I think like experiencing whatever you're trying to write about is really important, having that personal connection with the content. And about like finding his voice, Grann said that like originally when he started writing different books, like he would kind of write in his voice, but as he goes along, like he tried to find a voice and style that is appropriate to the material. So like if we were to apply it to content, if you're writing social posts, write like you're writing a social post. If you're writing like a blog, write like it's a blog. If you're writing for the website, you get the point. And so when it came to writing, this is just a little detail, but when it came to writing the end of the book, which I won't give away anything, but my point is that he said the whole time he was writing the book, he had one last line in mind. And he wanted to say, all that remained was the eternal hush of the sea. He said, but when he got to the end, I felt that it was poetry over meaning. The line I ended up with was a little less lovely, but has more meaning. And he said, I had to sacrifice the gem that I had basically been chasing for 5 years. He spent 5 years writing this book. He had this line in mind and was like, I got to scrap it. It doesn't actually work. And I think that's another like lesson we can take into content, which is like that idea of like kill your darlings, like the things that you're so invested
exactly
in.
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
This is one of my mantras. Absolutely. Like anytime I like workshop other people's writing in marketing or like creative fields, like it is the thing that is most difficult to do to your own work, because it's the thing that you're like, but I grew this babe in my womb. Like I can't get rid of it. And it's like you do it in service of the rest of the thing that you have tended and grown. And it's such a hard lesson to learn. And you have to like teach it to yourself over and over again. Like David Grann had to teach it to himself again, but it makes a good writer. So love that. Kill your darlings.
And so the final line is,
oh my God,
let's play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Which, again,
David Grann dispatched dead. Should I read the last line? I don't know if I'm giving anything away.
Here's your spoiler warning. Fast forward 1 minute if you don't want to hear the last line.
About 5 yards long and hammered with tree nails, these boards are from the skeletal frame of an 18th century hull, His Majesty's ship's the Wager. Nothing else remains of the ferocious struggle that once took place there, or of the ravaging dreams of empires. Pretty good. A little different. Pretty good.
It is pretty fascinating, that sort of writing to that end and having that sort of idea in mind for so long and then having to change it. Obviously very apropos for someone who's seeking treasure and ends up, chucking hundreds of people that are dead overboard. So I feel like, they say it's about the journey, not the destination. But I think for those people, in fact, the journey was not the great part.
Yeah, for sure. The reason, again, spoiler, the reason that so many people died, even before they got to Cape Horn, which they're at Cape Horn, they said they just get like blown around Cape Horn for like 40 days. They cannot get through. So harrowing. But they had press gangs at the time, because I think it was during one of the many wars of England, or at least, very much in the age of sail, that they were just in need of so many sailors. And so they would go kidnap people off the street. And in this case, they actually went and kidnapped people from a hospital. And so they were just like loading all of these like sick bodies on the ship, like in hopes that they could get better at sea and help. And no, just like so many people died. It's horrible and just a strange, strange time that like that was the solution. We're just going to go kidnap people out of their hospital beds and hope for the best.
It's one of the worst ideas I think I've ever heard.
It is. Can't recommend in B2B marketing for sure.
No, it's not going to be a takeaway for this episode, nor any episode.
There was something that you brought up, Meredith, that made me think of, yes, what one should do in content marketing. I think, like you were saying, like go to the source, experience it, yourself as authentically as you can. I think that is a huge thing in content marketing. I feel like there is often a lot of gatekeeping between sales and marketing to customers. That it's like, no, I don't want the marketing team like to talk to my customers. Like,
oh, I can't stand it.
Yeah. It's like, that's gross.
Drives me crazy.
Well, and they're like, we can barely get time with our customers. Why am I going to let you in the room, like, to do your thing? But it's those very people. It's the practitioners, the people using, your tool, your product that you need to talk to the most. And so any amount of time that you can get with them. And we kind of cleverly found a way around that by doing a podcast. And it was like, well, what if we give them a platform to showcase themselves and what they're good at and build a little of their own brand and gain some notoriety? Can we talk to them then? Can we learn more about their world, like, in this public sphere? Like, and it became so valuable, like, just for us in marketing to, like, gain insights into the world that our customers live in. It developed much deeper relationships between our company and whether or not they were actual customers. Some of them were, but they were respected in our main audience group. So yeah, that was kind of a twist of, can we talk to them if we talk to them in front of the world? And they're like, yes, please.
100%. I mean, we've made hundreds of shows here at Caspian, and it's so funny. It's like one of my biggest pieces of advice. It's like so obvious that it's just, part of your strategy should be co-creating content with your prospects and customers. Like that should be a pillar of your strategy. And B, all of the people who can't give you testimonials, who aren't legal approved to give you a quote, who can't do all that stuff, can come on your podcast and talk about everything but the thing, right? It's like the famous, how do you find out whatever, a secret about someone is ask every single question other than the secret, and then you'll figure it out, right? It's like the same sort of thing. It's like they can talk about all these other different things, and that's going to come to the forefront. And again, and who cares, right? It's like you just want to co-create stuff with them that shares their experience and accelerates their story.
Yeah. And we even got people on that were like so passionate, that were such power users that they're like, I'm probably not supposed to say this, but I love your product. Here's how I use it. I use it every day, and it's great in these ways. And we're like, oh, thank you. Like, that was unexpected. And at that point, when they're just like, you can run this, like, I'm not seeking approval, it's sort of like, okay, we're not going to ask. So yeah, sometimes you get great gems just by giving people the opportunity to talk about you on their own terms.
Yeah. When you have a clear strategy about how do we take our best customers and put them in contact both physically and digitally with prospects, you will win. It's like the most obvious thing. It's like, what's 10 times more effective than telling someone you're great? Someone else telling that person you're great.
Well, and that is for any, cybersecurity marketers out there, it is a notorious industry that is so difficult to get testimonials, even like to be able to use logos and
put them on your website, anything.
Yeah, to get quotes, like videos, anything like that is just like pulling teeth in most cases. But for whatever reason, just the magic of making a good platform. Like, I think part of it was we weren't creating a podcast to just talk about ourselves. Like, we weren't really, actually in the beginning, we weren't even really going after customers to be on. We just wanted to make a show of good information. And then we started getting customers asked, or our salespeople were recommending, kind of thought leaders that they know in our customer organizations. Like, if you want to be on this, like, you should let us know. And it just eliminated all of the problems and all of the teeth pulling, just endless hoops to jump through and to get very little in return. It just was a little magic pill.
I'll also give you, additional credit and points for the fact that, your company's called Authenticate, but that also your show is authentic. I think that's part of it. Is it's not a sales pitch. And I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. The minute you go in and be like, but we have this new feature, like, how are we going to get this on the show? It's like, that's not what the show is for. The show is for helpful information for our target audience. And then we'll talk about the features. We'll run an ad before our own show, to say, if you like, this realm of things, try our product. And you can kind of package it around self-promotional things. It is a corporate podcast. It is self-promotional inherently. But if you make the content of the show that, it just will never get off the ground.
Back to the wager. So Meredith, you said that stories can come from the smallest footnote. And to me, this is the crux of writing, whether it's business content or fiction content or whatever, that people often think that writers sort of have an idea and just need to like scribble it all out and just like get it down on paper. But it actually, it doesn't work like that. It is that there's one thing that is interesting, and it could be incredibly small, like a footnote that says, DD. And then that leads you to the next thing of like, well, why is that there? And then, okay, turns out this means that you're chucking dead people overboard of a boat. And then you say, well, why do you need to chuck dead people overboard this? And why was there hundreds of times that this happened? And then, you ask question after question after question after question. And then all of a sudden you have an entire story. And I think that when you're, crafting that stuff to start with, if you start with a single thing and keep asking questions, then you can find the much bigger story and fill in the gaps with the other things that are interesting there and start, making it feel more like a story. And well, where does it start? Does it start when, the moment that they set sail? Does it start years before that? Does it start when the protagonist is, sitting in his childhood home? Like where's the most interesting point to create, the tension and all those other things?
Yeah. And even like you're, saying that this came out of a footnote. It was a rabbit hole from a footnote. Like we have had no shortage of guests that began by someone quoted in an article. That's just like, we're reading something in Wired or whatever, or, Washington Post, like kind of, mainstream, like just for our personal lives. Like, me and my content marketing team are reading the news. And you'll see somebody quote, and it's like, oh, but I wonder if they do this kind of research, for XYZ, like if they're in this open source intelligence world. And you just kind of start pulling threads to, learn where the experts are and how vast, I guess, the expertise and applicability of your product line might be, and how mainstream it actually is when it can seem quite niche. Got to put on your journalist hat for sure.
What is the craziest time at sea that you've ever had in your life, Meredith?
Oh my God.
The craziest time at sea. Is this a genuine question? Like the polar bear question?
Well, I thought that all three of us were going to go on a boat before we recorded this episode.
We should have done this.
So we could feel what he felt like.
That's right.
But apparently I'm the only one who does the type of research from this group.
I went on a whale watch once. That might have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
You went well? How was did it get crazy or just?
It got pretty crazy. We saw a bunch of humpback whales. That was cool.
No people thrown overboard?
No cannibalism?
Not DDs
at the whale watch?
This time. No cannibalism. I guess it was pretty tame.
She did have a light snack.
Yeah.
So.
Of her
what about you, Shannon?
Sailing mate. I've very limitedly been at sea. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. So, one of the farthest places inland you can get from the ocean. I recently went to the Lake of the Ozarks.
Cool.
And there was a moment where we thought perhaps we were being kidnapped. I went for a friend's birthday party, and we had rented a boat with a driver and been out all day. And he kind of took us farther than I think we would have wanted to go, and was like, oh yeah, this place is good. It was kind of out of season. He's like, I'll take you over here. And then to get back to where we were staying, the Lake of the Ozarks is not just a lake, but a lake system. And so
it's massive.
It is huge. And so we were at the other side because, we didn't know how far we'd gone because we've been out all day. And so it was night. Most of us were below deck, and it just felt
is that metaphorically below deck or
no, we were, some of us were metaphorically below deck. We're worse for the wear, but some of us were just sitting under the deck. And yeah, it was just shouldn't we be back by now? It's at the point where you're is something wrong? Are we being kidnapped? Spooky. Is Ozarks real? Or Ozark? I don't know. I haven't watched the show. It's too close to home.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty funny, right? So, you trust someone, they're your captain for the afternoon, and already it's getting to be 6, 7 p.m. and you're already thinking mutiny.
Yes.
Right? So it's you could imagine. I mean, probably most of the people that get on the boat, in those times, like, it's like Jack and Titanic, right? It's like, I'm just going to, whatever, I'll just go get on this boat. It's like, I don't think people were necessarily like
professional sailors. Yeah.
Or hardcore pirates that we think of sort of in movies, right? It's like,
even John Byron is like, I think he's like a gentleman sailor. It's just kind of something you do like for prestige. Unfortunately, he got on the wrong boat and did not get home for a very long time to then sire the Byron line. Mutiny is one of those things that we can talk about in B2B marketing. Yeah. Of like, how do you kind of get everybody in line and obeying orders and marching in the same direction? I think, especially for kind of the program that I've been running over the last few years, it was a huge shift for us. We had been doing like a really, I would say, traditional marketing program that was very, demand gen heavy. We're just trying to capture emails until our eyes bled and nurture, and see what comes out the other end. We were doing like just ungodly amounts of webinars and, huge, gated content pieces that a lot of those leads that come in from those sorts of things are junk or they're not ready to buy. Like,
they're the big thing is they're not a lead. That's like,
it's not a lead. Yeah.
The biggest thing is that we've been calling something a lead that is not a lead.
It is not a lead. It is an email address is what you have. So yeah, we were like, are we crazy? Like, just stop doing this. Like, what's going on? So the head of marketing at the time had this big conversation with the head of sales and the executives and finance and was like, we are going to stop doing crazy things that don't go anywhere, stop wasting a lot of people's time and money, and ungate everything. Don't ask for email addresses until they're ready to take a trial or request a demo themselves to talk to sales. And we're just going to put out a lot of small, fast-paced, rapid-fire, topical content, and we'll see how that goes. And I'm sure it was very difficult conversations, for her to have and to convince them that like the leads are going to go way down because most of it's nonsense that we're calling leads. But the quality of people that we do get sales to talk to is going to be way better. And hopefully people will warm up with all of this freely available content that they're thankful that our brand provides. And it seems like that really, has come to fruition. We are starting to like kind of reintroduce like gated content a bit more now. But again, not treating it as like this person is ready to talk to sales. Like you can do gated content and like keep nurturing people via email, but don't pretend like they're ready to talk to a rep.
Did you find that? No, that's not what I'm trying to say. You know what? Let me do a quick segue. I have been on a scary boat.
Oh my God, we just talked about your scary boat story. Oh.
It's okay. Nobody asked me.
Oh no.
But I've been on a couple. And one, so I bought a boat with a friend during COVID, and we were boat novices, and we live in an area with a strait, not dire straits. But on this day,
a water strait.
It was in fact dire straits.
A dire strait.
And it was just basically in the Bay Area. There's sort of like a small craft advisory every day at 2 p.m. Because like basically the wind comes in and the waves start kicking, whatever. And boy, you get on that water if you're a small craft and there's a small craft advisory and that wind starts ripping, and we were trying to go through the strait and we just literally turned around. We were just like, this ain't happening. I mean, we got out there like early in the morning and we just turned around. We're like, this ain't happening. Because the moment that the bow of the boat hits the wave and you get sprayed with the big spray and you're like, nope, not doing it.
Not going to get me today.
Yeah, not today, Satan. So that was sort of one of those like, you're just like, hey, you get a little bit, out there. On a different trip, our engine died and we sat under the bridge for like 4 hours, and then finally it started back up. A different sort of moment where you're like, oh man, we've made a huge mistake. And it's just, there is nothing you can do. You are sitting there in the middle of a body of water in the ocean. I mean, this is the bay, but in the ocean, sort of ocean, it's salty. You cannot do anything. Your options are swim to shore or like wait for a towboat or like hope it turns back on. And so it's harrowing. Makes you understand the power of the tempest that is the sea, right?
Absolutely.
And like, there's no way to duplicate that feeling. No offense to my non-seafaring podcast brethren here. There's literally no way, because so a different time on a different boat, I'm on a sailboat, and you've heard of Alcatraz. Well, so on the windward side of Alcatraz, where all the wind is, there, and then there's a leeward side of Alcatraz, which is where the non-wind is. And I was on a sailboat, and sailboats like the wind, and I know nothing about sailboats. I'm going with these people. And basically, this part of the bay, San Francisco Bay, is like incredibly choppy, which is why you look at Alcatraz and you go, I could swim there. It's not that far. And then you go, no, you can't actually do that. You'd probably die. And, you're like, well, the water's not that cold. It's like 55 degrees. And no, it is that cold. But it's so choppy. And so anyways, we're in the sailboat and we're just getting blown like crazy. And then eventually they just like fired up the engine. They're like, we're just going to hit Alcatraz. We can't do that. We, make it through with the engine, go around to the other side, hit the leeward side of the island. Actually, I believe that was Angel Island at that point in time. And boy, you hit the leeward side and it's calm and the sun is hitting you. And you're like, this is great. And you sort of forget all about the fact that you were like in actual hell 20 minutes before that. And I say that all to say that, like, I completely agree that like the guy had to go to that part of the ocean to feel the feeling. And I don't know what the book would have looked like if you didn't do that, but you cannot simulate those emotions. You can't do it. Right.
For sure.
And he couldn't either, right? Because he's not dying. But he could.
Yeah.
He could be the writer that, went to do a story and died, because he went on the wrong boat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it could happen. And I think that that's the difference of like putting yourself out there and being like, well, am I really, putting myself in the customer's shoes? Am I really putting myself in the shoes of the audience? And the answer is most of the time it's probably no.
Yeah. And putting them in their shoes of like, do they care about what I'm saying? Are they even thinking about, this sort of thing? Do they need this product or not? That it just gives, if you think about audience first, which seems rudimentary, but I find myself like a lot of times when I get requests for like content marketing pieces are like, we want to, put this out. I'm like, well, who is this for? Who are you writing this for? Like, and why, like, are just kind of fundamental questions that sometimes people have a really hard time answering. It's like, well, if you have a hard time answering that, then this isn't going to be very good. Like, we might still do it, but it's not going to be very good. And it's probably not going to result in a lot.
Have you ever watched the show Alone?
No. What is Alone?
Okay. Anyways, Alone's a crazy show. Basically, they go out by themselves in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, like the survival.
And try to survive, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, it's a contest of how quickly you can not starve to death. Essentially, that's actually, and or get cold enough. But even still, usually if you have enough food, you won't get so cold, because you have food. The thing that makes you cold is that you're starving to death. Every year, new candidates get on. Every year, they've watched press seasons. They've watched people, get cold and get hungry. And every single year, people, tap out. And they're like, I couldn't believe how hungry you could be. Right. And so again, it's like that idea that it's like, if you're not truly doing it, you're not going to be able to capture the moment. Like, as many times as I've read about the Donner Party, like, it's still, like, I have to be up in the mountains in Tahoe and standing on Donner Pass and being like, I'm here in like triple Patagonias right now and I'm cold as hell.
Yeah.
And these fools were sitting in like moccasins.
Rags.
And eating each other. Like, this is wild.
I was just talking about the Donner Party. Hot topic that the Donner Party is. I was just talking about the Donner Party the other night. I love survival tales like Donner Party, Wager. There's another book I read. I read a lot of maritime books because I'm secretly writing a maritime novel. And so the Wager is like right up my alley. This other one that I read was, I think it's called 468 days. It's a number of days. And the number of days is how many days this fisherman was lost at sea. He went out with another fisherman in a storm and they got blown out to sea and their motor was busted. And the other guy died like after, I think like a month. And then this other guy lived and was finally like made his way to land over a year later. And it's just like, how do you do that? And how do you like live after that? Like, it was just incredible, but like very creative, like the ingenuity that he used to like, he had to feed himself. I think that was also where I learned that people get really cold when they're starving, actually due to like dehydration, because your blood flow isn't like carrying warmth around your warm-blooded body anymore. And it's just like, oh my God, you're just like so cold and so dry.
Yeah, and just food and water is just so critical to keeping yourself warm. You just don't think about it, right?
Yeah.
You might just like stories about people eating people also.
I run into cannibalism stories all the time. There's actually
too
really
much?
good, maybe too much. I read another book, actually, highly recommend this cannibalism book called Tender is the Flesh. Oh my God. If you would have asked me last
year. Is this
year.
a recipe? Is it a cookbook?
No.
What are you reading?
If you would have asked me last year, like, what is your, piece of media that you're obsessed with? I would have told you this cannibalism book. It is bizarre. It is gruesome, but it is an amazing book that someone went outside of their mind to write. And it's very, very good.
More like media, M-E-A-T.
That's very good.
Was it written by Hannibal Lecter?
It was not. I think it's like a Argentine author, a South American author. And so it's translated and it's very short because you could not handle a book, a page longer than it is.
I can't handle the title.
It's frightening. Yeah. It's very, very good.
Crazy. I'm secretly writing which will be announced actually Monday, a story about a CISO. And I've been in the zone. I literally finished last night. I've been in the zone about the feeling of the hack, right? And it's like that moment, and I've talked to, CISOs about it and whatever, the moment when it's you.
You're in the crosshairs.
Yeah. You're not in the crosshair. The bullet has been fired and it's in your neck and your blood is on the wall. And what that's like, you know what I mean? And how terrible that is, as a profession, really, like truly like a profession that is like trying to keep the hordes at bay. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, it's the same sort of thing. It's like, I couldn't know what that's like, but I had to talk to people.
Yeah.
To understand how they did it. I was just reading, or I was listening to Margaret Atwood talk about this, and she was saying that what she does is she'll take, when she writes about a person who she's not, she'll take that and bring it to a person and show it and be like, what do you think of this? Mm-hmm. And she's like, if they'll be like, yeah, you pretty much got it, then I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Good. I'm going to move forward. It's funny. I've never really seen these two things in parallel, but for my creative writing, I do, whenever I'm like introducing a new character, I do a character sketch and just try to think of like everything I can to like flesh out this character. I was listening to a Salman Rushdie masterclass, and he describes like great, masterpieces of literature, like every character, like even someone you just, your main character bumps into in the street, like needs to be a fully formed being, like just like you would see an artistic masterpiece. Like no one is sketched in around the edges. Like everyone is fully realized. And whether or not, you ever see this person again in the story, you need to know everything about them. So anytime I'm doing a new character, like I just try to like imagine like, where did they grow up? Like, were they married? Did they have any children? What do they have for breakfast that day? Like, what shoes are they wearing? Like just literally like start spewing information to make this person specific. In my professional life, we're doing the same thing right now. We're just doing this like huge deep dive into like reassessing like who is our ideal customer persona? Like what are the psychographics that like make them tick? How would they respond to like marketing materials of different formats? What are the demographics? What are the pain points? And then kind of getting into all these things that feed into messaging. It's very similar. Like you are building a character out of your prospects that you are then, writing toward that character, or you are putting them as the hero in your own story. I think we're trying to do that more now of like championing these people through platforms like the podcast, but even just in terms of our messaging. It's like, you do great work. We want to help you do great work. Like, here's how we can do this together. So I think deep dives and really knowing who you're talking to, who you're marketing to is absolutely critical, and put on your little novelist hat while you sketch those characters out.
I love that advice. That's fantastic advice. And you write novels, whereas I write drama. So it's a bit different. But what's funny is I actually follow a complete exact opposite piece of advice when I write, which is, so David Mamet in Masterclass, by the way, shout out Masterclass, that he is like, all it is what they want. So like basically he won't sketch anything else about the character. And to say you figure he's writing predominantly plays and movies, but he's writing drama, that it's like the whole thing is just what do they want?
Yeah.
And that's all you need is like, it's just thing to thing to thing, to get to what they want. And sort of, then you can sort of fill in everything else. But every character has to have that. So I think we're, it's funny, we're sort of coming at it from a different angle, but saying the exact same thing, right? Is you have to truly understand, what the person wants. And you have to understand who they are before you understand what they want, right? Because if they have a family of 7 and they're a technology executive, they might want, like I was talking to this guy, he has 5 kids and we were just chatting, we were catching up. He's a technology executive. I was talking about going to a restaurant. He goes, I haven't been to a restaurant in years. And I was like, it hit me and I was like, that's crazy. It's like, where would he go?
Yeah, with the
Was he gonna
brood.
bankrupt his family going out to dinners?
Yeah.
And it's like me with one kid, like it's like completely different where it's like I take him to sushi and do all this sort of stuff. And so it's just like, it's one of those things where now you think of his business life worked backwards, which is what can he do? When he has that many kids, what are the different machinations of his life as an executive that starts with his home life? Like it's just totally different. So you don't understand who the person is, and how could you possibly understand what they want, which is ultimately what you need for the story. Yeah,
for sure. Thank you, David Mamet.
Right. Shout out him. Great work, buddy.
Way to go.
Okay. Final thoughts here on strategy, on content, on what's working for your audiences, and anything else there?
Yeah, I think honestly, like we've just gotten, I would say almost daily feedback now on like, love the podcast. Thank you so much for like making this resource in the industry. Like it feels like it's really gotten legs and gotten to exactly what we wanted it to do. And so I would just say like, think about where you want to end up. Like, do you want people to thank you for your content marketing? Like, and if so, how do you build the path to get there? It is going to be a long path, especially if you do it in this very light touch, informative way. Like this is, season 3 of our show, Needle Stack. I should plug it. And yeah, it took time to build the audience. It took time to get to the quality of content that we wanted. It took time to convince people internally that we want to keep doing this. We need to stay this course. So yeah, think about where you want to end up and then build your strategy and your editorial path to get there.
Shannon, wonderful having you on the show. Thanks so much. Great chatting with you about the wager. Best of luck on your adventures. And we'll be following along soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be on.
Well, that's it for today. I hope you got some good ideas for your B2B content. Thank you for listening to Remarkable. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. Remarkable is created by the team at Caspian Studios, B2B podcast as a service. Caspian also creates fiction series for B2B companies, so if you want a business thriller, you can learn more at caspianstudios.com. Hollywood-style storytelling for B2B. And in today's episode, you heard from myself, Ian Faison, and Meredith O'Neill, senior producer here at Caspian Studios. Remarkable was produced this week by Meredith O'Neill, mixed by Scott Goodrich, and our theme song is Solomon by Falak. Be remarkable and rise above the noise.